Now that The Sims 4 has been out for about a day now, and I've put some time into the game, I thought it'd be a good idea for me to put together my thoughts and first impressions in the form of a video. Obviously, this is not my video review. This is just a first impression, because The Sims is the type of game that you want to put dozens, and some people will put hundreds of hours into their game, because that's the way people play. They will play for days and weeks and months, and in cases of people who play for generations, maybe even years. There are still active players who play The Sims 1 and 2 and obviously 3. Now, that being said, I feel like The Sims 4 is going to be a big case of 2 steps forward and 1 step back. There are obviously some great improvements, most of which are in how the Sims themselves act. There are also some massive steps backwards, mostly in architectural design and control to the player in terms of styles. So depending on how and why you play the game, you might actually be better off playing Sims 3 versus The Sims 4. So for starters, I'm going to go through some of the massive improvements in the game. The Sims themselves and the way they act is a gigantic improvement over past Sims games. Movement is more fluid. I feel that the interaction between Sims is much more believable. And not only that, but the introduction of multitasking, and I believe the introduction of moods, or at least, you know, the way that moods are used in this game, is an improvement over past Sims games. Now players can do 2 things at once. It sounds silly, but that wasn't something that was possible in past games. So now somebody can cook and talk to somebody behind them, or tell jokes, or continue their conversation while they're doing these things. Or in the case of children, they can be doing their homework and talking to one another at the same time. So in that regard, it's great. You know, Sims can carry a drink with them and drink while they're on the move, pretty much anywhere, food on the move, they can read anywhere, so it's a lot of nice things like that. So you can exercise, watch TV at the same time, and gain both skills at the same time. So you could be watching the cooking channel and running, and be increasing your cooking skills while also increasing your exercising skills. The moods themselves, I think, are a nice strategic layer added to the game. Now, I think that it adds to believability of some of the characters as well, because some of the moods themselves are more believably dynamic. Whereas if a Sim was mad in the past Sims games, you could just be nice to them over and over and over and over and over again until they were, you know, not mad anymore. Anger and frustration and stress and embarrassment seem to be much more believable this time around. And for players who think that it's easy to die from overdose of these feelings, it's very hard. A lot of these feelings get wiped when the character goes to sleep. So for someone to die of embarrassment, it would have to be a massive overdose of that embarrassment trait. That being said, I think that it makes the characters act more believable. I mean, you can, like, say, for example, a character is embarrassed. If it's a child, if that character is embarrassed, they might want to go into their room and cry, or hide in their room. If somebody is feeling overly flirtatious, they might want to go and take specifically a cold shower to kind of cool themselves off a little bit. So in that regard, it's kind of nice. It makes them feel more dynamic and more realistic. Now, the way that EA was kind of marketing The Sims, I don't know if I really want to believe it, with the whole you can tell more dynamic stories with The Sims. That was probably the wrong way to do it. I think they could have just said The Sims are more believable. I don't think that they're more intelligent than before. They can do more at the same time, and they have a wider range of emotions than before. And I think in that, they're just more believable Sims and more fun to play. There are still bugs in the game. I've had Sims disappear, I've had Sims teleport, I've had Sims get stuck, I've had Sims eat food that wasn't there, I've had Sims try to eat plates, I've, you know, any number of bugs that I've run into. But the good part is, none of these bugs have caused the game to hang, none of these games have caused my game to crash, and none of these bugs have seemed to have halted my progress, you know, except for the one time when my character wouldn't go through a door for a few seconds, but then again, he just teleported away. Once the game realized he was stuck, it teleported him to, a few feet away. So the game is obviously more stable. It doesn't have the hanging issue that The Sims 3 had. I can't say in terms of long-term play if that issue is there or not, but so far so good. Stylistically, it looks really nice. I do enjoy the way that the game looks stylistically. Obviously, a lot of these resolutions are not the highest resolution. In fact, there's some pretty awful looking resolutions on these objects. I think it'll be just a matter of time before some modders out there put out some high resolution texture packs for some of these surfaces. But so far so good. It's got a good looking style to it. That being said, I feel like design control has been taken away greatly from the player compared to past Sims games. Now, yes, you can drag and drop and you know, have more control over directly what your sim looks like in the create a sim area, but in past Sims games you had control over things like highlights in somebody's hair. Like if they actually had gray roots coming in, you could control exactly what color their clothes were. The lack of creative style in this game is a massive detriment to it, especially since a lot of the styles that are given in this game, there simply aren't enough styles given for each thing. So you might want to look at hardwood floors that you want to put in, but there might only be like 4 different colors of hardwood floor. Wood comes in many shades of brown out there, and it sounds silly, but when you're continually limited in your design options, it becomes a frustrating experience. When you think to yourself, okay, I want to do these countertops, and I kind of want to have like black countertops with white, you know, marble on top, and then the game only gives you these 3 options, you feel sort of stuck. Or here's a better example. If you want to put your character into a t-shirt, and you think to yourself, all right, I want to put him into a bright orange t-shirt, and the game only gives you 6 options for t-shirts. In The Sims 3, you could literally pick any color from the spectrum. In fact, you could even type in hex color codes and put in the exact color that you wanted. But in this, you are limited by what the game gives you, and I feel like the options that the game gives you are very few and far between. So in that regard, I believe in architectural and style-wise, the game is a step back. Another thing I'm not super sold on is actually the map system in this game. The way it works out is your sim is within a cloistered area. So if you're in your home, you can move within about 1 home's distance away from your home. So 1 house distance away from your home. And if you wanted to move out of that little neighborhood area, you need to load the next little neighborhood. So you need to load the park, or you need to load the library, or you need to load the comedy club or whatever. And in that sense, The Sims 4 doesn't feel like one cohesive world, but several maps glued together that look alike, but in reality it just doesn't feel like a cohesive area. And that's very unfortunate, because that's just going to be another case where people have had control before, and now that control is gone. And I feel that when reviews start rolling in for The Sims 4, that is going to be the biggest critique for this game. And it's probably going to be my biggest critique for this game, is that where control once was, it's now gone. Sure, the game might be more stable and you know, it might run more smoothly, but there's going to be a lot of frustration for people who knew what was there. If you've never played any of the past Sims games, then maybe you don't know what you're missing, and maybe you'll be okay with it. But for Sims fans, that is going to be the biggest gripe for this game. But the biggest praise for The Sims 4 is going to be the new behavioral activities of The Sims. Again, the way that The Sims behave now is just great. Yeah, that ought to do it for now. Again, I'm going to be doing the full video review for this hopefully later on in the week after I put some solid time into the game. That being said, I'm still enjoying the game. I'm still actually having a great time with my characters and kind of digging my way through. And hopefully you'll be hearing more from me and seeing how my Sims progress as time goes on. Thanks so much, everybody.